Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We're coming at you inside the friendly confines of the SR 1029 FM, the Game Remote Studios. Also on the Odyssey app. We got an hour plus to play with on a Woosah Wednesday edition of On Cue. Get social with me. Very easy to do at Rich Q on Q, X, TikTok. And of course, do not forget Kicks, Rumble, the YouTube channel. We're all over the place. Download the Odyssey app, and you can also search Coastal Sports Digital Network. We're also on millions.co as well. Hope everyone had a good Sports Tuesday. You're enjoying your 4th of February 2026. Get in on the conversation, hashtag on cue. And again, had to fire off earlier today. Major breaking news coming down. I mean, the NBA does not sleep. It's just been absolutely wild with the NBA trade deadline right around the corner now. What just dropped, the Sixers, believe it or not, active. The Sixers have just dealt Jared McCain to the Thunder for 4 draft picks. 2026 Rockets first round pick, 3 second round picks, according to multiple sources telling the mothership. We'll get into that in a couple moments. But like I said yesterday, before we got off the air yesterday, Jonathan Marshall and myself were talking about the idea of James Harden getting moved or being moved again. And obviously it came down, I would say 15, 20 minutes after we got off the air with the show. Harden was moved to Cleveland, from the Clippers to Cleveland. So I'll give you a couple thoughts on that. And then just a bombshell monster trade that just came down. That was about 35 minutes ago. And this is a big time monster trade. The Mavericks trading Anthony Davis to the Wizards. And I'll give you the rundown on this. So Dallas is trading 10-time All-Star Anthony Davis to Washington. It's an 8-player trade. What else is new? Dallas will get Khris Middleton, AJ Johnson. They'll get Branham. They'll get Bagley. They'll get 2 first-round draft picks, 3 second-rounders. Wizards are also acquiring Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, the well-traveled D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum in the trade, according, again, to multiple sources. We know Dallas was looking to trade Davis for a while. We kind of knew that, and they were looking to do that since their former GM, Nico Harrison, was fired in early November. And listen, I think a lot of that had to do with the backlash, obviously getting ready a perennial MVP candidate in Luka Doncic to the Lakers for a package headline by Davis. But he's a Hall of Fame player, just like James Harden is a Hall of Fame player. They're not the same players they once were, right? We both know that. But ultimately, it's a huge monster move. It really is. It is a monster move. And it just shows you right now, some of these teams in the NBA, not only are they just trying to clear out the luggage and clear out the baggage and make a little storage, but they are trying to get 1 or 2 players and build around those players going forward. And that's typically what you do in the NBA. So I thought, listen, I'm still waiting to see if the Knicks are going to do something. I've got some thoughts on that. But to me, the Wizards now, very interesting when you kind of think about this. You know, the Wizards are in a little bit of a precarious position, right? Because the Wizards right now are kind of telling you, okay, well, look what we have to work with. I mean, think about what they have to work with, right? Davis, you got Trae Young, you got Johnson, right? You got Sarr. So, you know, they're telling you, okay, we believe we can at least be a little more competitive and start building around some of these younger players when we have a mix of veteran guys. And I'm telling you right now, like ultimately, now I don't know how much you're going to get, you know, Trae Young. You know, he's so inconsistent and sporadic, and you know what you're going to get from Davis, obviously. But these are moves that are made in the NBA because you, as a franchise, have to figure out, do we want to start rebuilding? Do we want to start building around younger players? I mean, defensively, they stink. They gave up a buck 32 the other night to the Knicks. The Knicks absolutely routed them 132 to 101. I mean, it was not even a competitive game. So, you know, think about this move for a second. Just think about this move for a second. everyone wants to dissect right away. We like to sit there and say, well, who won, who didn't? Okay, so you got Young and Davis. So now you got that pick and roll dynamic, right? You've got young players, as I mentioned, Alex Sarr, Trey Johnson, Kaishan George. So now all of a sudden you got a decent front court. Now the Wizards, as I mentioned, Anthony Davis, Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum. So if you kind of break that down, to me, I think it's kind of a, I'm not going to say questionable, bizarre deal for the Wizards. You get a star caliber player without surrendering one in return. I think Davis and Young make the offense a little more palpable, watchable, especially in the immediate future. And listen, all you're kind of hoping for is, at the end of the day, you don't want to, if you're the Wizards, you don't want to win basketball games. I mean, let's just be honest. I hate saying it like this, but if you're the Washington Wizards, you know how bad of a franchise you are right now. You got 13 wins. Indiana's worse. And obviously, Indiana had to deal with the Halliburton injury from last year in the finals and his recovery. But if I'm the Washington Wizards, hey, this is great, but I don't need you guys to play a lot the rest of the way because that'll help my odds of getting a top 2-3 pick. And now all of a sudden, if you get that top 3 pick in 2026 and you still have this nucleus, now you can be an instant competitive, even dare I say, a potential, 5th or 6th seed / contender coming out of the Eastern Conference. I mean, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And I think if you look at the Mavericks and what they're kind of getting in return, look, I mean, once you lose Luka, then you kind of realize, you're losing the face of the franchise. Solid move on their part because what are they getting in return? Draft capital, draft collateral. Now, again, you just got to think about it like this. Is it going to set you up to have a competitive product on the floor going forward? And that's kind of the name of the game in the NBA right now. It really is. The Harden move, you knew that James Harden, James Harden, everywhere James Harden goes, it just implodes. I mean, there's really nothing else. Like, to me, James Harden is a Hall of Fame player. James Harden is, in his prime, instant offense. The beard was unstoppable. He can create, he can shoot, catch and shoot, had that, just kind of the awkward kind of hard high dribble, getting around guys, creating his own spot, creating his own shots. But James Harden is also 36. Okay. And the bottom line is James Harden is like Groundhog Day all over again. He's a Hall of Fame player, not playing like a Hall of Famer, who's basically a guy that's never going to win. He's just never going to win. He's going in the Hall of Fame. He's an 11-time All-Star. He's a 3 or 4-time NBA scoring champ. He was an MVP back in 2018, and now he's with Cleveland, right? And Cleveland turns around and they send a very good standout guard in Darius Garland, 2nd-round pick to LA. Now, the trade doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense and or surprise when you think about it with the trade deadline sitting right around the corner, the 5th, tomorrow, mañana. But it does shift star power and it does change the way you view these conferences and the power landscape. But James Harden, he's just not a winner. I mean, there's just really nothing else to say. He's just not a winner. Say whatever you want about his talent on the floor. It's undeniable. But James Harden, every stop, what the hell has he won in his career? Absolutely nothing. So now, is it going to change with Cleveland? I don't think so. It's just who James Harden is. You can't rely on James Harden, especially in a close game, especially in a game 7, especially in the 4th quarter. This guy shies away from the biggest moments ever. He's a choker. He's a choker. I mean, his efficiency when you're talking about the 3-point shot drops exponentially come playoff time when they make the playoffs. Like, he is a great Hall of Fame player, but he is also the league's and the NBA's ultimate playoff choker. So you don't even need to revisit his history. And it's a fact. It is an absolute It is a fact that this guy doesn't perform on the biggest stage. He's good for smoke and mirror stats. He's high volume, efficient scorer. But now, if you sit there and you like 8 of 28, then there you go. But in game sevens, no, big spot, no, not happening. Not happening. If you're Cleveland, you're sitting at the 5 seed, you move up a little bit, great. But you got to sit there in a 7-game series against, say, the Boston Celtics or the Knicks, and you need this guy to step up in the fourth quarter. He is going to wilt under the bright lights. He is. Because that's just who he is. Then you get the news about the 76ers, which I was a little surprised by this. So they're reportedly trading Jared McCain to the Thunder, bundle of picks, including the Rockets' 2026 first rounder. I like McCain. I do. I think he's a good player. I think that here's a kid, young kid. You got a good return, not a bad return, but I think this kid potentially, once he kind of settles in, he's dealt with some injuries. He might be an all-star. But the Sixers are showing you that they are trying to gather, again, capital, assets, right? You're getting 4 picks now. This is what you want to do. McCain, to me, nice player, though. 16th overall pick, 2024. Now, all of a sudden, he goes from the Philadelphia 76ers to the reigning NBA champs. The numbers, okay, still a young player. 6-7 points per contest, couple rebounds here and there, a couple dishes, not a bad shooting percentage. He had that torn ligament in his right thumb, if you recall. He's missed a little bit of time. And again, they're looking right now for a little more depth and a little more bench production. So now, the only other shoe to potentially drop, LeBron, is he going to get moved from the Lakers? Giannis in Milwaukee, which I feel as though with all the NBA talk and all the moves that have been going on, then you got to look at the Milwaukee Bucks. And listen, it's interesting, right? It's interesting. Now, again, if you asked me, I think trading McCain, I think you're looking for a short burst. I would have liked to have kept this kid in Philly. Jonathan Marshall and I were texting each other. I just think they're playing well. I'm not going to be nitpicky, but like I said, I just feel as though McCain can be that guy to give you the production where you need, especially if you're looking for that depth, that role. I mean, Grimes is not shooting the lights out either. But this is, again, like I said, this is kind of where we're at with the NBA. So the Thunder will receive Jared McCain. The Sixers get 2026 Rockets first-round pick, 3 second-round picks. And as we like to say, the rich get richer. And if you think about it, too, the Mavs essentially traded Luka for Khris Middleton, A.J. Johnson, and Marvin Bagley, right? And then a couple first-round picks and second-round picks. I mean, so we got a lot of NBA to get into. NFL, it is a Wednesday. It is a Woosah Wednesday. Super Bowl, obviously, we're trying to get over the hump. We got the big game coming up, Seattle and New England. We'll start to dive into that game. The Jets making what I believe is a interesting hire, and I'll tell you why. With the New York Jets and their new offensive coordinator, and we can kind of break this one down. The Giants also hired a senior VP, which we will get into a little bit as well. And then, of course, the game itself. We got to start looking at this game from both angles, both sides of the ball. New England, Seattle. Seattle comes in one of the best defenses in the league. New England comes in with their great story with their young quarterback. And then you flip it. Seattle comes in with Sam Darnold, who is a cast-off journeyman quarterback. And now he's a win away from being a Super Bowl champ. A lot of money coming in on Seattle. The line's still sitting at 4.5. Total bumped up to 45.5. So we will break that down as well on the other side. But we want to hear from you guys. As always, very easy to get involved in the conversation. You can follow us on X at RichQonQ, SR1029 FM The Game. You can just check out the website, download the Odyssey app, and as I mentioned, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I love when you guys do it. I love when you guys engage. I love the comments. You guys are fantastic. We got a lot to dive into on a Woosah Wednesday, which typically, how long will it take before the listening audience gets under my skin? That's how we dub it on a Woosah Wednesday edition of On Cue, powered by our wonderful friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea. Playa Bowl in Belmar. Plating and Sports, two great locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel. And of course, our very good friends, Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off your first purchase. Check out the promo code BYP20, savings on me. All right, crank it up. 46 past 2 o'clock hour. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get your comments, your thoughts. A very crazy, busy day in the NBA. We will start getting into the NFL. Super Bowl, Jets making a move. I'll tell you why it's very interesting. And it also puts a little more of a, I guess you can say, pressure cooker, hot seat, if you will, on Aaron Glenn. Quick timeout. We'll come back in about a minute or so, and then go to your comments as well. All right, welcome back, everyone. 250 on a Wusaw Wednesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Appreciate you guys checking out the YouTube channel. Like, comment, and keep us locked in. NBA, very, very busy day, as I told you. Don't forget to get social with me at RichQ on Q. Got some comments coming in on the Sixers with their move. And listen, I told you, I said it probably about 5 minutes ago. I get what they're trying to do, but I think the Sixers might regret this in the long run. I think this kid just needs to stay healthy. I think he can be a legit all-star. But again, this is the NBA. You're trying to stockpile and you're trying to get draft picks, right? And if you are trying to build around Joel Embiid, well, obviously this move doesn't help you. If you're trying to build around Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, this move doesn't help you in the short term, right? It just doesn't. If you're thinking long game right now, I like this kid. I think he's a player. I really do. I think he's a player. The problem with some of these teams in the NBA is they don't have depth. And if you don't have depth in the NBA and you don't have that, that 1-2 piece, right, then you're in trouble. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you don't have it, then you're in trouble. And listen, we know you don't necessarily need a big in today's NBA to win, but it's great to have one, and you certainly can build around him. Now, listen, Sixers were able to move him. They got draft picks in return. Now you got a player that's going to get a fresh start with the reigning NBA champs. Okay, fine. Listen, I think he can be a legit all-star. I really do. And now you pair him up, he's going to fit along nicely with SGA. You got a young kid, change of scenery. But as I mentioned, teams sometimes they're trying to do a splash, they're trying to make a move, they're trying to do something to kind of like that spark. Look, what what the Clippers did with trading Harden is kind of interesting because they were very bad to start the season, 6-21. They've turned it around, and now, granted, yeah, they're the 9th seed, and they've dropped a couple here and there. But I thought maybe because of their turnaround, they would have still figured out a way to have kept James Harden. But as we all know, James Harden always finds a way to wear out his welcome. It doesn't matter where he goes. He always finds a way to wear out his welcome because that's just type of player that he is, period. Right? Now, listen, I just, Josh chimes in, Q, I agree with you 100%. McCain was starting to just get his groove back and fit in with the second unit. That's exactly where I was going. So I think giving up on young players is tough. And you're trying to see, okay, can this young player find his way on the floor? Can he make his mark on the floor? And I think a guy like McCain was able to do that if you showed a little more patience. And we know that he battled some injuries. We're not talking about veteran guys, right? We're not talking about a veteran guy like a James Harden. We're not talking about a Cat. We're not talking about an Anthony Davis. We're talking about a young player. Now, does this move set something up? Who knows? And we told you yesterday, Morey always makes a move. Always. Always, always. And I'll tell you this, man, what would worry me if I'm a Sixers fan, you're kind of thin. You're kind of thin right now in this regard. Do you really want, if you are the Philadelphia 76ers, if a guard goes down, right? If a guard goes down, do you really want to sit there and give a 39-year-old Lowry minutes? You want to go that route? You want to give him 20 plus minutes a night? I don't. He's 39. I think the most minutes he's played was 11, and that was going back in that game against Brooklyn in November. So this is why you have to weigh the risk to reward. Joe D chimes in, Q, do you think the Knicks are going to be aggressive? The Knicks are quiet right now. The Knicks are quiet. Listen, I said this yesterday with Jonathan Marshall. I kind of joked about LeBron. We threw out Holiday. I even said, I have no problem. If the Knicks are thinking we need to fix or at least clean up our defense, or we can put the best defensive unit on the floor, then you do something that is totally outside the box. You do something that is probably, not what you were thinking, Nick-like, and you call up Golden State and you make a move for Draymond Green. I mean, that's, like I said, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think, but now you're actually putting out a very good defensive unit on the floor. I mean, think about that. Bridges, OG, Robinson, Green on the floor. You're kind of taking it back a little bit. You're going 1990s, Oakley, Mace, right? X-Man, nitty gritty. I understand. Green is a headache. He's an absolute headache. I think he's a clown. He is a headache. But if we're being fair right now, he knows that his time is ending. And now, did he turn around and rip the Knicks a couple weeks ago, saying they were soft? Yeah, which makes it a little more interesting. Is he a guy that's going to give you personal fouls left and right, flagrant fouls left and right? Yeah, absolutely. But the Warriors want to move on from him. And it's not like you're going to have to give up a king's ransom. You don't. 14 years in one place, that's a long time. He's 35 years of age, right? And he's got that smaller contract of $27 million. That's made him a little more of an attractive trade piece for other teams. So it's something definitely to watch, right? Totally something to watch. That's all I'm saying. John Cal chimes in, frees up space. Burlow's two-way contract to be converted. I don't see them bringing in another point guard. Listen, they're thin. You're talking about the Sixers, and appreciate you chiming in. Talking about that. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of these two-way contracts, is it not? And these 10-day contracts. Look, the Sixers are they're in a little precarious spot right now. They are, because you've shipped out a promising young guard. There's no two ways about it. He's a promising young guard that I think, if he stays relatively healthy, he can create a shot. He can come off screens. He can knock down his shot. He's just got to be in the right offensive system, the rhythm, the groove we always talk about. And he can maybe later on in his career, maybe he can be that guy that's scoring 15 to 18, maybe 18 to 20 a night. To me, that's an all-star player. Okay, we know this team is centered around Maxey. You lose Paul George for 25 games. Now, yesterday we were debating and arguing about the merits of George. I'm not even talking about the lame excuse. And no one was sitting there saying, well, they're not going to win or lose a championship because they don't have Paul George. That's not what we were saying. What we said yesterday is, when George was on the floor, you still have to honor him as a veteran player, a guy that can still knock down shots. He's not the Paul George that you guys have been accustomed to 6-7 years ago. Peak Paul George was with Indiana, late in his tenure with Indiana. And then obviously he continued to blossom the next couple years. He had some monster seasons with OKC, and then he put up good numbers with the Clippers. But I remember we were looking at this guy, 23, 24 points. No one was suggesting that. But when you have a player that is a knockdown threat, a guy that can still consistently hit it from beyond the arc or 12, 14 feet out, he's drawing the defense out. He's drawing that perimeter defense out. You still got to be honest. It's like having that great running back and everyone's stacking a box, and you got to respect the run no matter what. So I'm going to try to beat you over the top. George, we know this offense. We know how this team runs. It's predicated. It runs through Maxey, period. It's Maxey's team. That's not even up for discussion. Embiid, who's played 29, 30 games this year, he's given him 31 minutes, and he's actually given him production. These are good things. But I think also you don't want to give up on a young player for that short burst. That's all I'm saying. And again, man, if you get a guy banged up here and there, you're in trouble when you're talking about, again, the guard play, because the NBA is still predicated on guards. Sorry, it is. It is. You need guards in the NBA. You do. You need guards in the NBA. Let me check out a couple more of these comments. Ben chimes in Q. I absolutely hate the move. SN chimes in Q. Do you think the Sixers are just stuck in the tax, or are they gearing up for a bigger trade? That's a very good question. And it's funny because of what of Embiid's comments. Now, to the commenter's point, I think it was John, if you convert Barlow, right? So they need it, or they need to convert him, so that's required. So you're not going to get any get back the same capital, right? For say a guy like Drummond, right? So again, I'm not, and Joe chimes in Q. Are you suggesting they trade McCain over Drummond to dodge it? No, that's not what I'm saying. But again, you have to understand how it works money wise, right? So I look at this and I say to myself, maybe there's a bigger trade coming. We know Morey, a little bit of the riverboat gambler. It's maybe like a move before a move, right? And it doesn't make any sense as a salary dump, because you could have done that, a bevy of other things over that. And again, you got trade assets, so then you can assume you convert Barlow. Nick 16 chimes in Q. Is there any way that the Knicks can actually pull off the trigger and bring in Green? It's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched. But if you want to make a splash and you want to contend in the Eastern Conference, and if you're the Knicks, and you know damn well that you need the defensive chips, right? Because you already know what you have on offense. And again, bringing in a guy like Green, as crazy as it sounds, you got to give up a king's ransom? Do you have to give up a king's ransom? No, you don't. So Bridges, OG, Robinson, Green on the floor, you're going back to 90s basketball. And a move like this, if the Cavs make a move like this, if the Celtics make a move like this, hell, if the Sixers decide to make a move like this, as a Knicks fan, it would be troublesome. It would be troublesome. Look at the makeup now in the Eastern Conference. So everyone believes Detroit is a great story. It's a feel-good story. They're 37-12. They're a really good team. They're a young team. But if you don't follow basketball, or you just kind of look at the box score, you have no friggin' idea, who their starters are. You might have heard from Cade Cunningham. You might know of him, who's a really good-looking player. But now the offensive pressure is off of him, because they have a good center. You're actually getting crazy, believe it or not, from a veteran guy in Tobias Harris. You've got some role players. You got Robinson. You got Thomas. Guys are contributing, but they're a young team. So do we look at Detroit and we say they're legit? Do we look at them like last year's Cleveland Cavs and say, well, they arrived a little early, and then look what happened in Cleveland in the playoffs? The Knicks, to me, they are a veteran team. They now can have this physicality, this edge to them. And now you're getting a double-double, and you still get your production from OG and Mikal, and obviously in Jalen Brunson, and they've got some athleticism. We know that. In order for the Knicks to get back to the Eastern Conference Finals, to get to the NBA Finals, offensively, they do need to take the pressure and the load off Jalen Brunson. They just have to. They have to. And they're starting to get a little nicked up and banged up, right? McBride, Hart's banged up. So if you look at the lineup right now with Brunson, Hart, Bridges, OG, Cat, and then you're talking about defensive purposes, and now all of a sudden these guys are getting spelled, and you've got Robinson out there, you got OG, you got Bridges, you got Green out there. To me, defensively, I think that would be the best unit in basketball. And I would have no problem matching them up with other squads in the Eastern Conference. Now, Western Conference is a different story. I don't know if anyone's going to beat OKC. I don't know if anyone's going to beat San Antonio. It just shows you San Antonio is a great team, and OKC 7+ more games. they've got 40 wins. But I'll worry about that when the time comes. I just want to get out of the Eastern Conference. Can I get through Toronto? I believe so. Can I get through the Philadelphia 76ers? If I had a green, I believe so. Does Miami scare me? No. Does Orlando scare me? No. Does Boston scare me? Boston scares me because I'm looking at Boston right now, and obviously, look, they don't have the great Tatum, but they still have Brown. They've got White. They got Pritchard. They got a couple other players. They've got good production coming off their bench. That's a veteran team. They know how to win, right? They know how to win. They scare me. I just don't like that matchup. I just don't. But it's been a crazy day in the NBA, has it not? And we haven't even gotten into, Giannis. For all these moves that are going on right now in the NBA, I mean, no Giannis. Q, you see that Mavs updated return for Luka? Yeah, I saw that. Khris Middleton, Johnson, right? Bagley, OKC 2026 first round pick, right? 2029 first round pick Lakers, Golden State 2030 first round pick protected, 3 future second round picks. Oh my goodness. Nico Harrison, what are you doing? What are you doing? Out of a job, but still. We'll get into a little more NFL in the 3 o'clock hour. As I mentioned, my man Jovan. Let me get this straight. Sixers traded Jared McCain, who has been their best bench player as of late, to defending him a chance for picks, and you make this move, deduct the luxury tax too. It's depth. It's all about depth. Now, the only playable guard that you technically have is Grimes off the bench. Look, I get why teams make these moves. I understand it. I understand. But I feel as though they're trying to it's like short-term burst. That's what this is. It's like you gotta play the long game. And the long game to me is you keep this kid. That's the way I look at it. The long game is you don't give up on a kid that gives you good production off the bench, because you need that. You need that. So the Sixers pick up 4 draft picks, including a first. They drop $3 million below the luxury tax. McCain has $4.2 million, 4.4, 6.8 left on his contract. OKC still has the Clippers and 76ers, 5 to 30 in this year's draft, 5 to 30 picks. So could have also have been a first from Utah if it falls outside the top 10. I mean, even Jonathan Marshall texted me like, are you kidding me? You need a bench in the NBA. You need a bench, man. I don't care what level we're talking about. You don't have a bench, you're screwed. And now you got to deal with potentially having a thin bench when it comes to your backcourt and the guard play. Mel chimes in, Q, a little surprised you haven't mentioned anything on LeBron yet. You think this is pretty much a dead issue. Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, LeBron's not going anywhere. I think that was for yesterday's show, yesterday's conversation. But yeah, I think at this point, LeBron is probably going to play out the string. He's going to play it out with the Lakers, and then they're going to move on. They're going to move on. And I'm talking because now all of a sudden, listen, you're talking next season, right? You're talking next season, someone grabs him in free agency. Maybe it's Cleveland. Who knows? Maybe it's Cleveland. Who knows? He's going to be a free agent this summer. So if he wants to come back for his 24th NBA season, then he's got some options. Cleveland to me is the obvious destination. And by the way, he's got to understand something. At 41, he's not going to garner a $52 million a year contract. He's not. It's not happening. It's like market value. You might get pennies on the dollar for LeBron James. Or maybe Golden State, or maybe back to Miami. I don't know. But his time with the Lakers is done. You know it, and I know it. He had a run, and they won a championship in the bubble, and they got that championship. Whether people think it was an asterisk championship or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's another feather in his cap, another feather in his career, right? Tom Summers Point chimes in. Q, I know you're talking about bench death. I wouldn't overreact to this, though. It's not about overreacting. You got to look at it on face value, man. I don't think the Sixers are built, okay, to compete for a championship. I mean, hell, get out of the second round. But it's interesting if they're a competitive team, right? The problem is if you are the Sixers and Daryl Morey, and if you made this move to set up a bigger move and it's a swing and a miss, that's a problem. Like, that is a problem. Like, if this is a move that's just a move, but it's not set up for a bigger move, then to me, that is a swing and a miss. And please, I know everyone has the pipe dream of Giannis. I just do not see that happening. BD Benjamin chimes in. Q, the only thing that can redeem this would be Kawhi or somehow Giannis with no VJ attached. This is borderline malpractice if this is used for anything else. It's a fair point. But I don't see that happening. I don't see the Sixers. I don't know what to tell you. I know why. Again, I feel as though I'm belaboring the point. I understand why teams do this, but I think it's narrow-minded, short-sighted thinking. That's all. That's all. I think it's short-sighted thinking. There's no guarantee you're going to be able to pull the trigger for Giannis. There's no guarantee you're going to be able to pull the trigger for Kawhi. And again, you got to have patience with some of these players. You got to understand where you're at with the roster and how it's constructed. And you also can't get captivated by the money. You can't get captivated by the numbers. You can't sit there and make decisions based on crunching numbers sometimes. You can't. I've seen teams do that in the NBA over years, and it's been them in the ass. It's been them in the ass, and they've never recovered. And I know everyone thinks right now, yes, any team wants Giannis. I mean, for some, it's beyond a pipe dream. Okay. But again, I don't like trading a young player that's got upside if the move is made just because you want to duck a luxury tax. To me, that's malpractice. That's unacceptable. And you guys know, if you've listened to me over the years, I don't like the way the Sixers do business. I think it's a joke of a friggin' franchise. I've said this on the dial. I've said it a lot of places, a lot of stops, and a lot of shows. I don't like the way they do business. I was never a fan of the process. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was pathetic. I know people tried to push their narrative, their own agendas with it, and they tie it up in a bow, waiting for that day where they got out of the second round, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, they got to the NBA Finals 15, 20 years from now, so then they can tie it back to Sam Hinkie and all the other crap. Let's have Kobe come out and raise ticket prices in a season where we're only winning 12, 13 games. Joke. Markelle Fultz, joke. Embiid understanding damaged goods, joke. We can go on and on, the brand stuff, right? The burner phone stuff, on and on about this franchise. And finally, when you think they're playing competitive basketball and they're trying to win back a fan base, I mean, quite frankly, I'm sorry. What are you honoring a 2001 team that didn't win? That's embarrassing. Stop. That was a hell of a run. I remember they ripped off, I think, 13, 14 games to start the season. Everyone remembers, AI stepping over Fisher. That was a hell of a run. The Eastern Conference Finals was unbelievable. Was it against Toronto in 7 games? And then they beat the Lakers in game 1. Then they got waxed. So a lot of what they've done over the years has just been garbage. It's been embarrassing. It's turned off a pretty passionate fan base, because when the product on the floor stinks, that's what you get. So if you're trading a young player, a good player, a player that can contribute because you're ducking the luxury tax, that's Bush League. What are you getting in return? Some fluff? Is that going to help you now? No. And the long game is to try to have a little bit of the patience. That's all. A little bit of patience. I'm not talking about drafting a quarterback top 5 and then he's stinking up the joint, right? That's not what I'm saying. And you're giving up. G chimes in Q. Excellent points. I don't think the Sixers really needed to trade McCain just to deduct the luxury tax. Pretty surprised they didn't. Makes me think another guard's coming to Philly. Otherwise, I don't get it beyond stacking draft capital. That's what you're doing right now. You're stacking draft capital. And you can argue he was playing better last year pre-injury than VJ's been playing thus far. And by the way, that kid's special. Make no mistake about it. That kid's special. NBA is funny, man. The NBA is funny. It really is. Because some of these moves, we'll go back and we'll look at them and we want to tag them with that great, what do we talk about? The grade them on a curve, right? Grade them on the curve. How'd that move? How'd it make out? Oh man, Harden going to the Cavs and, what was the big splash yesterday, right? In the NBA. What did we talk about all day yesterday in the NBA? Is these teams that are deciding we are about to rebuild and we are letting you know, wink, wink, we are about to tank. So you got the Sixers trading McCain. You got LeBron's going to finish out the year with the Lakers. You saw the Celtics making a move. You saw the Grizzlies obviously trading for Jackson. That's telling you right there. The Grizzlies trade for Jaren Jackson to Utah for an 8-player deal. I mean, we went into that as soon as we came on the air. So I don't know who's next. Morant, Giannis, Cat. Who's next? Sarge chimes in. Q, you've been killing James Harden for about 10 years now. I probably think longer. He's an all-time great, as you said. He's not the same player he once was, but he's going to be able to contribute for Cleveland. It's not about contributing at this point if you're James Harden. Like the script, the narrative, it's already been written. Like the story of James Harden, it's already written. Unless James Harden has a magical run in the playoffs at this advanced age, okay? And listen, if he's knocking down shots and they're winning a close game in the fourth quarter, he had one moment throughout, 17, 18 years? He's not a clutch player, Sarge. You know it, and I know it. You know it, and I know it. Period. Steve chimes in. Q, how much more pressure now do you think this is going to put on Embiid? Do you think he's going to be pissed off about this move? You heard what Embiid said the other day, and I've been very indifferent with Embiid. I just have. I think he's got Hall of Fame talent, but I also think Embiid for some seasons has been a friggin' front runner, and I know people don't like when I say that. It's just my opinion. I don't like, the not playing the back-to-backs and all this other nonsense. I think he's come in out of shape at times throughout the course of his career. He flips, he flops. He's a front runner. And again, I don't care about an all-star snub either. It means absolutely nothing, right? He's played well. I'll give him that. He's played well, but you also have to look at it like this. There was the argument years ago when you talk about the 76ers. Are they a better team with Embiid, healthy and engaged, one thing, or without Embiid, always banging around, flopping, turnovers, inconsistent play, not playing back-to-backs? Like he is such a lightning rod because everyone's always going to sit there and say, what if, what if, what if? I mean, last night, he's out in that game. Again, because of the right ankle, knee injury management. Like after a while, it gets old, man. Like you broke it, you buy it. You broke it, you buy it. And oh, by the way, they won last night. They put up 113. They won by 19 points. Edgecombe had 26. So it's like sometimes for those that sit there and say, you're always killing Embiid, you're so critical of Embiid. Yeah, but sometimes they're a better team without him. I'm sorry. People don't want to hear that. He's not the player he once was. He's going to give you the burst. He's going to give you a glimmer. He's going to give you a moment here and there. But he's just not the player he once was. I mean, you got a player that comes down and says, let's get better. And then you trade base, arguably your second best shooter on the team. I mean, come on. I mean, if I'm Sixers fans, you better hope the GM friggin' does something. It's not like you're going to hold him ransom and give him 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours for demands. But if he doesn't do anything else, you got a right to be pissed off here. Like, what are you going to do with 76 different second round picks? I'm telling you right now. Like, again, I understand why teams make trades. I understand why teams do this. I get it. It doesn't mean I have to agree with it. And I'm not even a Sixers fan. Nico comes in. Kyrie next. Ooh. Well, let's see. Possibly. He's unlikely to play before the break. Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I'm trying to think. I mean, I understand what you're saying because of the Davis trade. I get it. So then the argument is, did you even know this? Not that you, but I'm saying you guys in a whole. If the Dallas Mavericks, now think about this. The Mavericks, right? If you're talking about their plan, if you go by when they made the move to trade Luka to the Lakers, they wanted that dynamic duo, right? Of Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis. Now, in a perfect world where the sky is blue and the grass is green, and you're like, man, these guys are healthy. These guys are locked in. This can be a hell of a plan. Now, follow me. How many games have those two played together? Just take a wild guess. How many games they played. Kyrie's not going to make a season debut until the All-Star break. So this mastermind of a plan, this is unbelievable. Here we go. They played one game together. It's almost like when the Nets, when they had their, quote, big three, right? With Durant and Harden, Kyrie again, and everything just blew up in their face. So I don't know if you're moving a player that has yet to play coming off a torn ACL, but it does open up the question of his future going forward. Look, when Kyrie is healthy, he can play. But in the end, Kyrie and AD played one game together. Davis got hurt plenty, which is the norm, right? And then obviously Kyrie Irving had his season end. What was it, last March? He had the knee injury. He hasn't played since. And before he comes back, what do? They trade Davis to Washington. So I think first and foremost, look, the deadline is going to pass tomorrow. He's got to return to the floor. He's not going anywhere until he returns to the floor. He hasn't played in about 11 months. No team is trading for a player coming off a serious injury, sight unseen. I haven't seen what he can do. When he gets back, now we'll see. Because you know what's going to happen in the summer. His name's going to float around too. And maybe he's a guy they move on draft night. I don't know. Now, we know one thing. If you're a Dallas Mavericks fan, and I don't know how many Dallas Mavericks fans I have tuning in, it's Cooper Flagg's team right now. Period. So it's all on a 19-year-old. And Kyrie, oh, by the way, is under contract through 2027, 2028. He's going to make $39 million in 2026, 27. He's got a $42 million player option 2027, 2028. So right now, to what you guys are asking, nothing with his future. After the break, get on the floor, show you can play, show you got lateral movement, say you haven't lost any of that quickness, that explosiveness, you get to the rim, you're healthy, you play out the season, then we can talk in the offseason because, again, those numbers that I just gave you, they're manageable enough to potentially pull off a trade in the offseason. Nothing now, though. Nothing now. All right, 336 on a Wednesday edition of On Cue. I want to switch gears on the other side and still take your NBA comments. A lot of you guys are chiming in. Always appreciate it. About 16 of books. I want to get to a little NFL. So we'll switch gears coming back. Keep it locked in. Don't forget we're powered by Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea, fresh roasted coffee, pliable. Played against sports 2 locations, Mount Laurel and Deptford. Come out in about a minute plus. We'll get back to your comments as well. Appreciate everyone. Also, checking us out on the YouTube channel on X, SR1029 FM The Game, Odyssey app. If you like the content, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and we appreciate that first and foremost. All right, quickie timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, 3:30 on a Wednesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Let me get into a couple more comments. Q, if this is to get under attacks, as you would say, friggin' disgrace. If it's a load up on assets to get my man Giannis, it's one of the greatest moves in Sixers history. All right, just relax with that. Calm down already. Calm down, calm down, calm down. Your guess is as good as mine, my friend. Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, listen, this is why, the NBA, the trade deadline in the NBA it's fun and it's interesting, is it not? And it's certainly um, it's compelling, right? We can all agree, but you never know what GMs are thinking. You never know what GMs are thinking ultimately when they make these moves. Sometimes they outsmart themselves, sometimes they overthink, sometimes they overanalyze, sometimes they're not looking the big picture. Like moves, I feel as though in the NBA, sometimes we do a little more of that instant reaction, right? But then in the NFL, we can grade it so fast. We can grade it so fast. We know right away if it was a bad trade. And look, the NBA is different. I mean, I'm talking apples and oranges here because you really don't get monster trades in the NFL. You get trades, yes, but not like in the NBA. It's just different. We're not going to sit there and, trading quarterbacks or all-time great running backs. Yes, you definitely get trades. Make no mistake about it. But it's a lot different. Okay? It is a lot different when you're talking about the moves that we have seen in the NBA over the years. And we've seen some blockbuster trades. We've seen. Now, I still don't know if the Knicks are going to do anything, but this is what we know. The Mavericks trade Davis to the Wizards. The Clippers trade Harden to the Cavs for Garland. The Jazz acquire Jackson, right? Memphis stockpiles on picks. We mentioned the McCain. We talked about the Celtics. The Timberwolves finally get rid of an albatross and a friggin' contract to Mike Conley. And the Cavs acquire Ellis from the Kings. So, again, I'm telling you right now, if you're doing what the Sixers did, then maybe it is to load up and give a king's ransom to Giannis, right? I mean, that could be that. It could be like that. HG chimes in. Harrison says, "Q, one last thing on the NBA. I know you want to switch it to the NFL. No worries. But a few years ago, you remember who the Sixers kind of gift wrapped? Yeah, Isaiah Joe. And now they're giving, they're kind of gift wrapping McCain. But this team was not winning a championship this year. Now, if you get Giannis, then that's a different animal. That's a different conversation. That is a totally different conversation now. I mean, now all bets are off. That's all I'm saying. All right, I wanted to switch gears a little bit. 3:30 on a Wednesday. I mentioned the NFL. I'll still get into your Sixers comments as well. NFL, it's a Wednesday. We know the Super Bowl is right around the corner. I saw that the Jets made a very interesting hire, right? The Jets made an interesting hire. The Jets go out. They hire Frank Reich as their new offensive coordinator. And the reason that this is an interesting move on so many levels is because, the Jets, Woody Johnson, they're giving Aaron Glenn a lot of rope, man. I mean, it's a lot of, hey, you want to do it over? Go and do it over. And I find that fascinating because Aaron Glenn, to me, is not a very good head coach. He's not a leader of men. And Woody Johnson is a joke of an owner. We all know that. You don't have to be Jet fans to know that. So Woody Johnson has given Aaron Glenn a do-over on a coaching staff that has about 55 plus turnover, right? And you've got 20 plus assistants on a 3-14 team. And oh, by the way, all those coaches have contracts that are paid in full by Woody Johnson unless they get another job. So to me, like, I'm giving Glenn way too much power. I am. I really am. And I understand you're the head coach and you come up with your own coaching staff, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. The fact that they hired Frank Reich, and we know it didn't work for Frank as a head coach, But if I'm Aaron Glenn, the first thing I need to do is fix the friggin' defense. That's it. Especially if I want to call plays, it's a critical year. Now, hiring Frank Reich, if you're a Jets fan, this is why I'm gonna give you a sliver. I'm going to give you a little daylight, as we like to say. I'm going to give you a little sliver of hope, a little daylight, kind of save face for you on a Wednesday. Now, if you're bringing in a guy like Frank Reich, who understands what? Understands the quarterback position, right? Understands the quarterback position. Then the Jets have to have some type of contingency plan when it comes to the quarterback, do they not? They have to. Now, they're not drafting a quarterback. They're going to go after a bridge. But now you bring in a guy that's a former NFL coach. Granted, hasn't worked out, played in the NFL, was a head coach. He's got experience, seems like a good guy. You know, he's still relatively young. You had that major shakeup by Glenn, and, you know, you get rid of all these assistants, and now Wright becomes a 12th different play caller in a 16-year span. But he's bringing head coaching experience, the Colts and the Panthers. Now, he's going to turn around and he's getting and inheriting one of the worst offenses in the NFL. The Jets offense stinks. They don't have a quarterback. They finished 29th in scoring and 29th in yards. They couldn't move the friggin' football. They put so much pressure on the defense. And after a while, the players just on the defensive side of the ball quit. They didn't want to deal with it anymore. I can't blame them. But you have to have at least an idea of what you're going to do with the quarterback position if you are the Jets. That's all I'm saying. Okay? If you are the Jets, you have to have an idea at what you're going to do. And that's a bridge quarterback. It's a bridge quarterback. Now, is that a Kyler Murray? Is that a Mac Jones? Is that a Malik Willis? Well, I'm imagining that they sat down and pretty much said, hey, Frank, you know, what are we thinking here? Or Frank said, hey, listen, what's your thought? What's your direction? Where do you think you're going to go? So the move tells me you also have good opportunity now, just in case it blows up with Aaron Glenn. You slide in a guy in Frank Reich. That's all I'm saying. And I know, again, you know, this is kind of where we're at, right? Matty Deschime's in big time Jets fan. Q, it's move. I'm more curious. What do you think about Nagy as your offensive coordinator? I mentioned this yesterday. You know, it is what it is for the Giants. I trust John Harbaugh. I do. I trust John Harbaugh. I don't have a problem with that. Monday Marcus chimes in. Q, would you trade VJPG and the Clippers pick for Giannis? I mean, I think at this point, look, Giannis is older. Okay. He's a little banged up. I'd be a little reluctant to do that because of VG. Edgecombe to me is a player, man. He's a player. I love this kid's game. Remember when we were talking about it, Jonathan Marshall and I said, you got to draft VJ. You have to. Remember everyone was arguing Ace Bailey. And we were like, no. VJ. I like this kid's game. He's fearless. Now, look, he's going to learn as he matures, as he grows, you know, to cut down on the sometimes some bad turnovers. But for, you know, if you're guard, if you're starting backcourt, if you're playing 35 plus minutes, scoring 20 something points, dishing out 7 assists, 7 rebounds, you're only turning it over 1 or 2 times. That's a hell of a game. You start to look about, talk to his production on the floor. You know, you go back early in January, he had a monster stretch. They won 5 of 6, 5 of 7. He had a great game against the Knicks, a great game against Dallas. Both, by the way, on the road, he had 23 and 26. I like his shooting percentage. He's efficient from the floor, right around 48%. knock down a couple threes here and there, stretches out, makes the defense a little honest. Again, can create. I like VJ Edgecombe. I think he's a very good player. So no, I'm not parting ways with him. I'm not. Listen, this is what's tricky about the NBA. We get sucked in to these players that 30, 31, 30, Hall of Fame. But then remember, the body can break down. Remember what happened with the Nets and Durant? And Giannis is already dealing with some injuries. He's already dealing with some injuries. Matt chimes in. Q, I know you're going to talk a little more about this later on in the week, but kind of early thoughts on the game. Matt's a Pats fan, by the way. I think like anything, once we get through Friday, Saturday, I have a pretty good feel for this game. I already have a good feel for the game. Like my gut is telling me, or I should say in what direction I'm leaning. If you're asking me if it's changed over the last week, it hasn't. I'm still leaning towards Seattle in this game. I think defensively, they're going to cause fits for Drake May. I really do. And if you're New England, you're going to have to run the friggin' football. I mean, you just got to figure out a way to run the football. If they can't run the football, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble in this game. They got to run the football. They have to figure out a way to keep Seattle's offense off the field, win the time of possession battle, win the turnover battle. And if they are fortunate enough to turn over Sam Darnold a couple times in this game, especially deep in Seattle's territory, they got to turn around. They got to punch him in. You got to get 7, not 3. 7, not 3. 3:42, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, 3:35. Don't forget, it's a Wednesday edition, the 4th of February, 2026, Wednesday edition of On Q. Rich Quinones here. As always, download the Odyssey app. You can search Coastal Sports Digital Network. You guys can do me a solid. If you like the content, please subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. We'll tweet out the link at Rich Q on Q. Very easy to get social with me. What do we got here? Lax chimes in. Q, the Jets are absolutely one of the worst franchises in all professional sports. Are you actually suggesting they did something right? No. What I'm saying is that I don't mind the move for Frank Reich. And I think that if you're being fair, you know that Aaron Glenn, I don't believe Aaron Glenn is fit to be an NFL head coach. And I really believe that Aaron Glenn, uh, he gets one more year. That's really it. Aaron Glenn gets one more year. I don't even think it's up for debate. I don't. I just don't think it's up for debate. So the move to me is, basically he needs to build a coaching staff. He's got to be able to build, put together a staff that can help him out, that can take pressure off him. I'm not going to say bail him out because he's getting paid to be the head coach, but you always need a second set of eyes, a third set of eyes, a fourth set of eyes. You always need that in the NFL. It's a long, drawn out season. It is a long, drawn out season. You got 17 weeks, man. It is a grind. So, yes, if you're going to put together a coaching staff, you want to be able to trust these guys and you want to make sure that they take some pressure off you. You delegate, they do what they need to do. Where are the Jets very weak? Look, we know on both sides of the football, but their offense was ferocious. It was horrendous. It was bad. It was terrible. I might have made up a word. It was horrible. I mean, look at the games late in the season. They scored 8 points against the Bills, 10 against the Pats, 6 against the Saints, 20 against Jacksonville, 10 against Miami, 10 against the Ravens, 14 against the Patriots. It's a good hire because I believe no matter what, Aaron Glenn is gone after next year. I believe he's gone. I do not believe Aaron Glenn cannot, I do not believe Aaron Glenn can save his job. I don't. So now what are you doing? You're kind of planning ahead. You're kind of planning ahead. He cannot save his job. They would have to go 12-5, 11-6, 10-7, make a deep run in the playoffs. They're not doing that. They're going to be horrible next year because, again, they're going to have a bridge quarterback. But you make a move like this, at least you're bringing in a competent guy to help run the offense, give it a little bit of life. Aaron Glenn's got to deal with the defensive side of the ball, which was also a piss poor unit. All right, 3:48. Quick timeout. Don't forget, we're powered by good friends over at Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, Deptford and, of course, in Mount Laurel. Quickie timeout, back in 30. All right, fast approaching 4 o'clock on a Wednesday edition of On Q. As I mentioned, don't forget, get social with us. Very easy to do at Rich Q on all social media platforms, X and IG, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. We're on various platforms, Kicks, Rumble, X, YouTube, LinkedIn, Millions. I mentioned Rumble, right? And the Odyssey app as well. I got a lot of comments coming in on the NFL. Got some Jet fans chiming in too. Giant fans, what do we got here? Kevin C. and Tom's River chiming in on X. Wants to know, Q, realistically, what do you think stat-wise the progressions will be for Jackson Dart next season? Look, he's got to stay healthy, right? You're getting weapons back, Neighbors. Hopefully they re-sign Robinson. You got a good tight end in Johnson, even though he's got to be a little more consistent. You got good backs. You get Scatterboo. You fix the offensive line a little more. In 17 games, there's no reason next season with John Harbaugh and Matt Nagy that Jackson Dart can't throw for 35 to 3,800 yards, 25 plus touchdowns, and then add another, 6 or 7 on the ground. There's just no reason. I mean, he had 25 total touchdowns, 9 rushing touchdowns, but I would like to see him more of a pocket passer. Forget about these design RPO runs. Look, he's 22. He's 22, but in today's NFL, you should be able to throw for 3,500 yards. You're talking 2 and some change a game in a 17-game schedule. You're talking a touchdown plus in 17 games. I think that's more than fair. I don't think that's asking a lot. The game is officiated. It's to protect the quarterback. It's to protect the quarterback. They want teams to score. They want that pocket passer. They want 35, 32. They want shootouts. That's what the NFL wants. That's what sells. And, the betting public loves that. More props, more opportunities, a lot of overs. Here we go. Right? PJ chimes in, Q, I'm not going to be as critical as you are with James Harden, but I'll agree with you. He's the type of guy that never seems satisfied. And then everywhere he goes, he usually leaves that place better. No, you mean worse. You were right for about 95% of your tweet to me, but no. CB chimes in, Q, I think this is actually going to be a major play for the Big G. Perhaps. That would be something, but they got 24 hours to get it done. Where's Josh Harris? Does this guy even give a shit what's going on with the Philadelphia 76ers? Does he? Does he even care? It's like if you're Josh Harris and the fan base is clamoring, they want a winner, and you're the friggin' owner of this franchise and you got zero interest. You don't care about the franchise. That says what? You don't care about the fan base, which tells me sell the friggin' team. Seriously. Sell the team. Sell the team. That's the way I look at it. They're desperate for a winner. That's why the whole Paul George thing was annoying. It was, because you're finally putting a winning product on the floor and you're bringing a little excitement back. And then George gets pinched 25 games with a just bullshit excuse. Let's just be honest. Bullshit excuse. And you finally have a little equity built up. But if you don't give a shit what's going on with the franchise, if you don't have a part in this, don't be a part of it. Then sell. Go away. Yeah, these owners have money. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. But sometimes, It can't always just be a business. You can't always treat it like a business. You can't. All right, fast coach in 4. Quick timeout. We'll come back. Fast approaching the 4 o'clock hour, a Wednesday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. Appreciate you guys keeping us locked in. Don't forget, as always, get social with us at Rich Q on Q, X, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. If you like the content, always encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel first and foremost. We're powered by our good friends over at Pliable, fresh roasted coffee, 20% off your first purchase. And of course, Played Against Sports, 2 locations. I mentioned the owners when we're talking about some of these teams, especially locally. I mean, once in a while, you got to pop your head up, right? This is not, what's the groundhog, right? Puxatami Phil, or whatever the hell his name is, right? 4 or 5 or 6 more friggin' weeks of winter. Once in a while, kind of just pop your head up. Like, where's Josh Harris? Seriously, where's Josh Harris? Like, you're finally getting a little buzz, because I think the expectation is, okay, what can Edgecombe do as a rookie? You got Maxey. Can you get something out of Embiid? Is Paul George going to turn back the clock? All right, we deal with the Paul George and the 25-game suspension and the PG nonsense. Fine. I get it. But you got a fan base that's begging for a winner. Get out of the friggin' second round. Get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like I said, you had to pay homage to a team that didn't even win the NBA Finals. But it was a great run back in the 2000s with the AI teams, no doubt. And again, I'm a Knicks fan. I'm not a Sixers fan. But I remember that run. They started the season off like gangbusters. I think they were 13, 14, and 0. That squad, I mean, that was a fun team to watch, man, because ultimately, no matter what, you had to always appreciate Allen Iverson's game. They won close to 60 games that year. They got through Indiana, and I stand correct, it was that 7-game series, which was epic against Toronto. And then they finally got through 7 games against Milwaukee. They beat the Lakers in game 1. Iverson, little coffin corner, steps over Fisher, and then they got blown out 4 straight games. Fine. So you want to sit there and pay homage to 2000, 2001. I think it's kind of a joke. I respect that team. I wouldn't have done it, but whatever. But I'm talking about now, 2025, 2026. Where is Harris? Where's the owner? Where's Josh Harris? Like, you're fine. You've got some juice. You got a little life. You got some buzz. You got some pieces to build around. You got a good-looking rookie. You got Maxey that's playing like a big-time all-star and perennial MVP. You got Embiid trying to turn back the clock when he's not worried about load management and all this other crap. You don't give a shit about the fans. You don't give a shit about the franchise. You don't care about the players. You don't care about the city. And again, more importantly, you don't care about the fans. If that is the case, sell the team. Like, how is that so hard to just understand? And I'm not even talking about the Jared McCain. Everyone's been commenting in, and there's guys that and then no, and then I'm fine with it. And it's not you wait for the trade deadline to end, and then you can have your own thought, right? Get the full picture. But if you're talking about a singular standalone move, I don't like it. It's a bad use of resources. Like I said, if you're doing it, just get down with that luxury tax, and it's not set up for a bigger move. It's going to blow up in their face, and they're going to have egg on their face, and it's going to bite them in the ass. To me, I think it's short-sighted. I like this kid. I like his game. When he's healthy, he's engaged. He's a good player. He's a good shooter. You can argue second best shooter on the floor for this squad. But I'm talking about the owner. Pardon me. That's what I'm talking about. The owner. Harris and all this. Now I need to get my fresh roasted coffee. That's what I'm talking about. It's like Woody Johnson with the Jets. It's like Woody Johnson with half these owners don't care. They're trying to turn the profit. That's all it is. Trying to turn the profit, make a couple bucks. That's all. But I think it's fair to ask, if you're making all these moves, where's the owner? And I understand moves like this, a fan base, they get bummed, but then maybe they get excited because they're thinking, what's next? You stick Giannis on the floor with the 76ers, yes, they are an instant contender in the Eastern Conference, but risk to reward. That's all I'm saying. Risk to reward. That's it. That's all I'm saying. KC chimes in, Q, I agree with you with Frank Reich. I think he's a stand-up guy, but let's be honest, he's not head coaching material. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the Jets made this move because they needed someone that has friggin' head coaching experience. And it's not Aaron Glenn. Do you not get it? There's nothing Aaron Glenn can do short of winning the Super Bowl for him to save his job. He's done after next season. So now you have a guy in Frank Reich that has coaching experience. And Woody Johnson has given Aaron Glenn a ton of wiggle room. When they go 4-13 next season, it ends. That's all I'm saying. It ends. I don't even think, to be quite honest with you, if they start off 1-6, 1-7, who's to say they don't pull the plug? They should have fired Aaron Glenn after the season. It was a bad hire. It's like Minnesota understanding we hired the wrong GM who told us when we interviewed him family was his major commitment, which I'm not going to fault a person for that. But when you're trying to be a GM of an NFL friggin' franchise, you're not going to have that comment in the room. No one's buying that. If I'm an owner, seriously, if I'm an owner of an NFL franchise and I'm interviewing you to be a GM, I want to know you are all in. That means 24/7. That means get your pillow, get your cot, whatever you friggin' need. You're sleeping in the office. Family, be damned. That's not what I'm talking about. Minnesota's a different example. Woody Johnson, you hire Aaron Glenn. Why? Because he had a nice little career with the Jets. You hired Aaron Glenn. Why? Because of what he did with the Detroit Lions. Okay, fine. But now you're trying to plug and play. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to plug and play. The Aaron Glenn that was with the Detroit Lions is totally going to be a different animal. And I understand you want to give some of these guys head coaching opportunities. The Sean McVays, the Ben Johnsons, the McDonald's of the world. Those are rarities. They're rarities. So you bring on a guy in Aaron Glenn, and he's what? He goes tit for tat with the media. He's throwing his team under the bus. He's not throwing his team under the bus. He's holding players accountable. He's not holding players accountable. He's being coy about who's going to be the starter. He's being coy about injury reports. He's going back and forth with the media every single solitary day. And they're not playing competitive football. They did not put a competitive product on the field. And you guys know as well as I do, in the NFL, when you're a bad franchise and you haven't been good for so long, and you look up in the stands in late November, early December, and say the Jets are playing Buffalo, the Jets are playing New England, and that stadium's overrun by Bills and Pats fans respectively, and you're getting your asses handed to you 35-3 in the third quarter, and the stadium's half empty. The only fans left are Pats fans, Bills fans, Pittsburgh fans, Dallas fans. That's when guys get fired. That's when guys get fired. He should have been fired. 3-14 after what they did to close out the season. They don't show up against the Patriots twice. They don't show up against the Ravens. They do nothing against the Dolphins. They rolled over against Jacksonville. They lost to a horrible Saints team. They gave up 42 to the Pats, and then the Bills took it easy on them. He should have been gone. Should have been gone. And he's getting rid of what? 50% of his coaching staff. He's getting rid of 50% of his coaching staff. I like the Frank Reich hire. By the way, it could be worse. I saw that ESPN's reporting that the Cardinals are hiring Nathan Hackett as their offensive coordinator. Oh my goodness. You cannot make that up. Listen, the move for Frank Reich is a big move for Aaron Glenn. You know why? Because Aaron Glenn is trying to save his ass. Seriously. He is trying to save his ass. He understands. I need somebody that has an semblance of what the hell they're doing. It's almost like, when you go out to your families for the holidays and you got the little kids sitting on one side of the table, and then you got the adults on the other side, but then you have kind of like that in between, you're 17, 18, and you're like, you're not yet. We don't know if we want to really stick you with the adults just yet, but hey, if we stick you with the kids, you're going to stand out and you're going to be the adult at that table. That's this hire. That is this hire. That's all it is. That's all it is. And it had to be done because Aaron Glenn, to me, has no idea what the hell he's doing. He's got no idea. He's not the adult in the room. He acts like a petulant friggin' child. That's all. All right, 10 after 4, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, 10 after 4. Welcome back, everyone. A Wednesday edition of On Cue. Again, you can capture us on Kicks, Rumble, SR 1029 FM The Game, our YouTube channel as well. If you like the content, get social with me at Rich Q on Q on X and IG. It's good comment. I actually just got a question regarding Glenn, and I'll get to that. I got a couple more. Kevin C, KC, Maddie chimes in as well. Listen, he is pretty much like the kid at the table. That's all. He's the kid at the table, and you need an adult in the room. You need an adult in the room, period. And that's why you hire a guy like Frank Reich. That's all. I mean, it's the smart move to make, right? VG Vikings fan chimes into the season trends that way. Does Glenn even make it to the end of the season? No. If they start 1-6, 2-7, he's gone. He's gone. He's absolutely gone. Big Ant chimes in. Q, I'm hearing things. Listen, if they turn around talking of the Sixers, and if they get Giannis, that's great. But what are you giving up? I'm not giving up the picks, Edgecombe. I'm not. Now, again, if you read between the lines and you read some of the tweets on how it's reported, if you're talking about the flexibility now follow me. You're talking about McCann, who goes from the Sixers to the defending NBA champs. So now we're talking about clearing space, right? You know, you got a riches of guards, but you're still a little thin. Now you get some assets, quote, draft capital. Now I got flexibility. So if I'm going to bring back a player, let's just say it's Quentin Grimes that everyone's enamored with, nice player. If I bring him back in free agency, then I can turn around and I can convert a two-way player in Dominic Barlow, right? You can convert two-way Dominic Barlow. So if you read between the lines and you read those kind of comments or that line of thinking and or reporting, then maybe it tells you, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer on a Wednesday, that there's not another move to be had. That's all I'm saying, Big Ant. New headphones, who this? AKA Heat Man, AKA Heisman, AKA Steeler Nation, AKA Duval, also known as Vince. Out of all the trades so far, I think the Cavs will regret trading a younger player for a career team killer. Seems like a panic move because they aren't good enough trading just to trade. Yeah, the Harden move, and I talked about this a while ago, he's just a bad locker room guy. I mean, Harden, wherever he goes, it just does not work out. It just doesn't. It's not even up for debate. Yeah, James Harden back in the day is going to score his 25, 28, 33, 35 a game, and you're going to win 45, 50 plus games and get to the playoffs. But when you need James Harden the most, and I'm not talking 36-year-old James Harden, but the narrative, when it's all written, when you're talking about the beard, 99.9% of the time, the guy always came up small. Always. And I like Garland. John Marshall and I talked about, this deal kind of came out of nowhere. It really did. Now, we thought James Harden was going to get moved, but I didn't see him going to Cleveland, and I didn't see Cleveland shipping off a very good player. The Clippers are 17-4 in their last 21. Okay, the Cavs have won 13 of their last 18. So now, to your point, you're doing a move like this, which means you're shaking up both teams respectively dramatically. That to me is a surprise, Vince. That's and I don't know if this is win-win, right? I don't know. The rationale for Cleveland, it's pretty easy. Win now. And they still got Mitchell at the helm, right? So they've had a bunch of playoff failures, a couple years of playoff failures. And again, Mitchell's kind of been that, all right, I'm a team guy. I'm going to be patient. Here we go. Re-sign in 2024 in the offseason. We're good. Now I got 1 year left on my deal after this season. I got a player option coming up, Vince, right? So I want that deep run into the playoffs. I want that deep run. I don't want to stand pat. Maybe I want a guy like Harden. I don't know what his thinking is. But kind of like the AFC, for a team like Buffalo, now just again, hear me out. Now, I didn't say follow me, hear me out. Buffalo, for Josh Allen and McDermott, no Lamar, no Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. So my window of opportunity is open. So now if you're Cleveland, you're looking around the Eastern Conference and you're saying, well, wait a second. There's no Tatum with the Celtics and no Tyrese with Indiana. They're out of the picture. So now I can kind of grab a couple little bites of that playoff apple. And the other thing is, as good as Garland is, he is always banged up. And health concerns were definitely an issue. They are. Now, a move for Harden, I will say this. As much as it pains me to say, when you bring in a guy like a James Harden, a veteran guy that's been around the block, he still gives you the cachet at 36, 37. Look, whether an all-star or not, he's put up some numbers. He can still help that, quote, championship window. And the one thing about James Harden, I'm very critical of him, 25, 26, 28, 31, 32 years of age, James Harden, shoot first. Now, believe it or not, I'm a little more of a pass first kind of guard. And I think that'll fit well with a guy like Mitchell. Again, I wouldn't have made the move. And that's also going to open up a little more spacing for who? Mobley and Allen. So short term, I know what you're saying, but on the surface, if we're being fair and objective, short term, it probably makes the Cavs better in the short term. For the Clippers, now you got flexibility. Now you got loads of cap space in 2027. Now you're going to start to rebuild and get younger. And you got a good guard in Garland when healthy. That's a little more slasher, shiftier type of guard, right? You design that pick and roll. But I hear exactly what you're saying. Sometimes teams just make that blunder to just make a move. All right, 4:18, quick timeout. We'll come back. All right, 20 past 4 o'clock hour. And again, appreciate everyone keeping us tuned in. We fired off very earlier today, fast approaching 2 hours on the air. You guys are fantastic. Let's get back to some of the comments. Vince chimes in. More skilled team, no doubt, but this is where chemistry and culture kick in. If they had Draymond or Isaiah Stewart to please the locker room, be a lot more on board. How about this? Let me throw this out for you. I mentioned this, speaking of Draymond, I mentioned this right around 3-ish. Maybe 2:30 when we were talking about all these moves. If you are the Knicks, now just, what we got here? Hold on. We got another trade. Nah, really? Again on the move? Let me check, see what Shams is saying. Oh, I didn't even see this. I mean, it's not, not like 15 years ago. Clippers, Nets, Toronto have agreed on a multi-team trade sending Chris Paul to the Raptors. So what I was going to say is, if you're the Knicks and you're looking around the Eastern Conference, and you know that, look, the Eastern Conference is not the Western Conference, but defense for the Knicks is going to be key, right? You know Draymond Green wants out of Golden State. If you're the Knicks, would you even entertain the thought of making a trade for Draymond? He's a head case. We know that. He's going to chew up fouls. He's going to get flagrant ones and twos and personals. But hear me out, Knick fans. Bridges, OG, Robinson, Green on the floor. Now you're kind of turning back the clock if you're the Knicks. You're turning back the clock if you're the Knicks. Defensively, that's a great, great unit. It's a great unit. It is. CB chimes in. Q, you're the only one that mentioned this. Thank you. We were told to support a friggin' horrible 10-72 team. We did, never knowing that the process was over. The owner would never give us a fighting chance. I'm pissed off today. Sell the effing team. Hey, listen, I said it. I said it. And you are allowed. You don't have to like the move. You don't. You don't have to like the move. You don't have to like when your franchise, when your GMs make moves, okay? You don't. But I'm saying right now, and I can't speak to this, I can't speak as a Sixers fan, but I've been on the air for a long time. And I was on the air on a station that carried the Sixers that used to absolutely cringe when I would criticize and rip them during the process because it was an abomination. They were telling you, spend your hard-earned money on a piss-poor product. And they're trying to sell you on building around a young team, giving you something to hang your hat on. Okay, fine. So you've got kind of middling right now, winning some games. And I'm not going back to, like, you guys think I'm talking about what transpired in the early 2000s. I'm not talking about Maurice Cheeks when he was at the helm. That's not what I'm talking about. Or the Tony DeLeo or the Eddie Jordan. You guys know exactly where I'm going with this. It started when they were 19-63 with Sam Hinkie in 2013 and 14 with Brett Brown. I mean, they were a bad team. They won 18 games the next year. They won 10 games. And remember, they got rid of Hinkie. They brought in Colangelo, Jerry and Brian. You had the burner phone incident, all the nonsense. That didn't pan out. Colangelo was gone after what? 2 seasons? They brought in Elton Brand. Do you remember Elton Brand? Having a cup of coffee. And then now finally, with Doc and then Morey in 2020, 2021. Okay? And yet, they still haven't been able. They still have not been able to get over Kawhi Leonard. Let's just call it for what it is. That moment, the doing, bouncing around, little coffin corner with the jumper against Toronto, that moment sunk the 76ers franchise. It did. It did. Because they haven't been able to get out of the second round since. And they're selling you smoke and mirrors, pipe dreams. So yeah, the fans can be pissed off. You're allowed to be pissed off. You're allowed. You have every right. You should. You better hope that again, a, bigger move is coming. But also, let's be honest, sometimes teams don't make moves. Sometimes, as Vince said, some franchises make moves to make moves. And that's not always the best thing. So you get rid of a young player, you feel you gave up on a young player. Okay. You gave up on a young player that was trying to develop. Well, now he's going to defending NBA champs, and that's the best place for him to develop. And this kid's probably going to be an all-star in 3 years. Perennial potential all-star. So you can get mad. My whole thing is, where's the owner? That's all. That's all I'm saying. Where is the owner? I want to know where my owner is with stuff. I do. I want to hear from the owner. But we never get that. Ever. Again, chemistry, culture, green doesn't fit New York culture. I'm telling you right now, that nasty demeanor, that brings it back old school. Don't see working with Brunson or Bridges, very calm and professional, would be toxic in my opinion. I actually thought Elton Brand did a decent job. We know players aren't always the best judge of talent, and he built a competitive team. Yeah, he made some bad decisions. Elton Brand made some bad decisions. He did. Let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, you overpaid Tobias Harris, right? You signed Horford. You lost Jimmy Butler. The Harris trade contract was horrible, right? Wasn't that a win now mode kind of move? The Horford signing was horrible. I think it was like $120 million. You lost Butler. I mean, yeah, am I going to give him a pass? He was a former player. Pat Riley was a former player. Hell of a coach. Scotty Boy chimes in. Always good to hear from Scott in Delaware. Used to listen to me on 1290 The Ticket. Q, excellent point on VJ. I think he's a raw young talent. I love what I'm seeing from his game, and you're 100% correct. I don't know why people don't understand. This is no longer Embiid's team. It's Maxi's. I think people understand. I don't think there's anyone out there tuning in right now that believe that the Philadelphia 76ers is Joel Embiid's team. It's not. I just really, I don't know. And look, I don't want to be like that guy, even though I have a habit of being that guy. But yeah, Embiid's comments a few weeks back, right? And I believe Harris, like in my gut, I believe Harris did this to duck the tax. And you go by what Embiid said a couple weeks ago. Like, this is the problem I have with the Philadelphia 76ers. You got snake oil friggin' salesmen running the org, running the franchise. That's all this is. That's all this is. And you got used car salesmen. You want me to believe you? I'm not. There's never transparency with the Philadelphia 76ers. None. None. Never been that way. Never will be that way. It's a poorly run franchise. It really is. It really is. I mean, what the hell have they won over the last 30, 40 years? Nothing. It is a poorly run franchise. And all this talk about next year, window. No. Look, the Jets are poorly run. Arizona's poorly run. Cleveland's poorly run. Cincinnati's cheap. I got news for you. Sacramento, poorly run. Minnesota, poorly run. Charlotte, poorly run. 76ers right there. They're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. And if this owner does not care, if this owner doesn't want to take stock, if this owner can care less about the hardworking blue-collar fans in a passionate city, even though I'll, tangle with the fan base all the time, but in a city that is passionate about hoops, in a city that understands basketball, if the owner doesn't want to placate them, if the owner doesn't want to acknowledge that, if the owner doesn't respect that, doesn't respect the franchise, the players, and the friggin' fans, and he's never to be seen, never to be heard, sell the friggin' team. Sell the team. 4:30, quick timeout. We'll come back. All right, 32 past 4 o'clock hour on a Woosah Wednesday edition of On Cue. A lot of comments coming in. Appreciate you guys greatly. A little bit of a mixed bag with everything going on with the NBA. Very busy time in the NBA. Trade deadline right around the corner. We mentioned the NFL, a couple moves by the Giants. Obviously, the offensive coordinator moved Frank Reich to the Jets. I want to pull some comments in here. A lot of NBA fans weighing in as a whole today, which we're getting a lot of first time guys chiming in. So I certainly appreciate that. Northeast Al chimes in. Q, did you already see that Harden's frustrated with the Cavs and he's asking for a trade? Oh, man. No. That's not true. Be nice now. Be nice. Be nice. It is kind of funny when you think about it, though, right? Q quietly, the Pelicans are just sitting there. That's a E chiming in. Yeah. Let me get to some of these Sixers fans. Steve chimes in. Q, I think this move actually signals something big. It better. Perhaps. I don't know if it will. I just don't know, right? I just don't know. Keep chimes in. Q, I don't know why the Grizz fans are sad about Jaren getting traded. It was time for him to go. Yeah, Jonathan Marshall and I kind of talked a little bit about this. But, again, look, you got to look at some of these moves on face value. That's all. You have to look at them. Sometimes you got to peel back the curtain and kind of look at these moves and not get so, I don't want to say emotionally involved in the move. I mean, it's not like some of these guys were playing 10, 15 years, right? Face of the franchise. Tony chimes in. Q, I think it's a good trade. I've been covering this team. I know where Jared is at with the team in terms of reality. Reality is he's a backup, and getting 4 picks for a backup is good value. I definitely appreciate your opinion. I just don't necessarily agree with you. Hey, listen, that's fine. Listen, I appreciate that. And listen, I don't think, I think if you're talking about the player himself, he's going to have an opportunity with a different franchise. My whole thing is I'm not up in arms like most are with the move. I wouldn't have done it. I think he's a young player. And again, just my opinion. I think if McCain is healthy and engaged and coming back to form, and we know he's a shooter, if you have another move in place, if you're the Sixers, that's great. But you're thinking about the window for Joel Embiid, right? That's kind of where we're going with this. It's like in the NFL, you get so many years with a franchise quarterback. In the NBA, you get so many years with the big man, especially one that has an injury history like Embiid. So the reality is I need to try to win now. The window is shutting, right? And the window is almost shut. Maxey and Edgecombe, they are long-term pieces to the puzzle. So if you want to have 1 and 2 and the building blocks, because that's what you need. Batman needs a Robin in the NBA. We've seen it throughout the test of time. There's been a couple rarities. That Billups team with the Pistons and Rip Hamilton, and you had a balanced starting 5. That's a little different animal. We're not talking about the Knicks in the heyday in the 70s where the ball never touched the floor. Different conversation, different era. But now you always need that 1-2 punch. So I'm not suggesting this kid was going to blossom into 25 a night. What I'm saying is I like this game. I think you could have found a place, a good fit. I think you're a little thin now. I think you'll lose a shooter. And I wanted to see what he does. That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying. If you got another move in place, perfect. And I'm not going to sit here and, again, trash players, especially young players. I'm not. I mean, you can argue whether you think McCain is better than Grimes. I'm not going to spend another 2 hours doing that. I'm not. Not that I would. So you have to now have trust that the GM has a bigger play involved. What I'm saying, when I look at this franchise, and I've covered, many years ago I covered this team, and I look at this franchise, I know one thing is certain. When was the last time in 30-something friggin' years that the Philadelphia 76ers not only have been relevant, but have been transparent? They're just a poorly run franchise. They are uberly sensitive to criticism. Uberly. You know how many times I used to have their PR friggin' jackass clowns call a station on the dial when I was on air ripping them, thinking I was going to come on the air and give them an apology? Get the frig out of here. They are a very insensitive and sensitive franchise. They are. They don't care about their fan base. They don't. So if you have an owner that doesn't give a shit about the city, about the blue collar, the 9 to 5, the punch the ticket in and out, clock in and out, bring the lunch pail to work. If I don't care about the franchise, the players, or the fans, then what am I doing? Like, then sell the team. I don't earn the right. I don't deserve the right to have the team. I don't care about being a billionaire and all this other stuff. It's a poor look. That's all. And if you're doing it to crunch numbers like we talked about, the luxury tax and everything, that's even worse. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Like, and you guys can get on me all you want, and I get it. I'm not a Sixers fan. I've made no bones about it. I've been beyond critical of the franchise. I just don't like the move. That's all. I don't like the move. That's it. Because I'm trying to manipulate the numbers, duck the luxury tax. So I'm making this move. I'm getting rid of a good player that I think I can build upon, or give me some production off the bench and some minutes. That's all I'm saying. I don't like the move. That's it. And everyone's entitled to have their opinion. Okay. And we can speculate all we want whether they did it or didn't do it to get under the luxury tax. Now, you trade a young player and he goes somewhere else. Sometimes he might blossom into a really good player. I'm not equating this to the Jets casting off Sam Darnold and Darnold being in the Super Bowl. We're not doing that. That's apples and oranges. And maybe they watched his game. They understand sometimes he was banged up, a little inconsistent, and maybe they just didn't like his game and they decided we're going to jettison him. Or maybe they decided we're going to get under an luxury tax. Or maybe they just decided to make a move, like Vince said, to make a move. That's all. All those things can be true. Jovan chimes in. It's a bad trade, especially if you don't have a backup plan. You dump a second-year player for picks and deduct the luxury tax. They're not going to be transparent about it, right? Team was already lacking depth at guard, and now it's shorthanded more. Yeah, I mean, you don't want Lowry coming off the bench playing 20 minutes. And I start the show off by saying that, Jovan. That's the last thing you want. That's the last thing you want. But they weren't, if they get Giannis, then no one's complaining. Right? I mean, I'd have to check, and Jovan probably knows. I'd have to check. They don't have a very strong bench. And trust me, I call games. Various leagues, as you guys know, stateside and overseas. And I can tell you right now, the best teams have a bench. The best teams have depth. They have guys that can give you serious, solid minutes, 8 to 12. And they can give you decent production. You don't have a bench, especially in the NBA, you're screwed. You're screwed. Go look at the Celtics. When the Celtics were winning, they had bench. Yeah, they had Tatum and Brown and White, but they had a decent bench. OKC, very good bench. Got to have deep depth bench. You have to. You have to. John chimes in. Q, any move you think the Bulls are going to make? I can't. I mean, I couldn't even sit there and speculate. I mean, look, there is the carrot that's being dangled, and that's who. All you got to do is go to Milwaukee. I mean, that's the player. It's just a question of, what's the move? The interesting thing is with the Cavs right now, they have the third shortest odds right now after trading for Harden, which I find fascinating. Again, Garland, very good player, injury prone. I think, he's got an opportunity to flourish, and LA gets some cap flexibility. And Cleveland says, okay, now with the pick and roll with Harden, here we go. And we're going to make a run at this thing. The Bucks are 19-29. Okay? They're 19-29. And everyone knows that Giannis is ready for a new home. He's 31. He's been a little banged up, but he's still a top 3, 4, 5 player in this league. Anywhere he goes, they are going to be an instant contender. Bench right now, Grimes, Bona, Watford, Barlow would be part of that, but now he has to start. Correct. Yeah, they don't have a very good bench. What's frustrating is you dump McCain while Lowry and Gordon take up space on the team. Yeah, I mean those were just bad moves. They're bad moves. I mean, it's you know, you want to jettison players like that. You don't want to bring players on. And the NBA, I get it. What's tricky about the NBA is sometimes you got to take a guy's contract on to eventually get rid of him. But to your point, yeah, they're just chewing up space. They're chewing up space. What do they play in a combined 12 games this year? 13 games this season? They're going to give you nothing. They're past their beyond prime role players at this point, journeyman at this point. And it's not Eric Gordon 10 years ago scoring 16, 17 when he was with the Rockets for 6, 7, 8 years. Again, everyone's going to have their opinion on it. And like I said, we can all speculate all we want, whether the move was made to duck the tax and this, that, the other thing. If Friday you're talking about, Giannis now suiting up, no one's talking about this. You're not. But again, what are you giving up? It's the NBA. The one thing is certain with teams like the Sixers, the Knicks, there is a window. It's what I believe. There is a window. The Knicks, they have a window. They have a window with their core, with their nucleus, right? They have a window with Brunson and Hart and Bridges and OG and Cat because it doesn't seem like they're going to move them. The Sixers have a window not around Maxey or Edgecombe or Maxey Edgecombe and when they get back George. It's about Embiid. That's one of the reasons, you draft Embiid to win a title, to win a championship. You build around him. Every time they tried to build around him, it's blown up in their face. It has not worked out. Insert player here. Simmons doesn't work out. Insert player here, right? Harris doesn't work out. Insert player here. Harden doesn't work out. Insert player here. It just time in and time again, it does not work out. It's like a lost career, if that makes sense. It really is. Like you're going to look at Embiid and say, this guy, when he was healthy, was a hell of a talent. Hell of a talent. MVP, an all-star, all-NBA, defensive second team, scoring champ. What could have been? What could have been? And they knew he was damaged goods when they drafted him, and you moved past it. And then finally, you had to rip the Band-Aid off. You had to struggle. You had to eat some horrible seasons of bad basketball. But every time they try to match him up with somebody, every time, Butler, every time, it just never worked out. It never worked out. Ooh, if I'm the Bucks and the Sixers call, I'm asking for VJ plus picks. I don't know. I just don't know if I'm the Sixers, do I want to trade? Well, you're going to have to put it this way. You're going to have to throw in a couple players along with VJ, are you not? Or do you consider him untouchable? He's 20 years old. 20 years old. The kid just scored what? 25 last night? All of a sudden they won 4 or 5 in a row? You had 8 players in double digits? And by the way, no Embiid? Hello? That's a little dicey, Jovan. That's very dicey. All right, a couple minutes before we get out of here, let me clean up a couple of these comments. What do we got here? Q, thank you for clarifying. Definitely first round pick, 3 seconds. The Fez chimes in. Q, it's probably 26th, 28th pick, 3 seconds. That is so not the same as a lottery pick or even low 20s. Trying to make it seem like this is all good value is insane. I've never said that, so I don't know what you're talking about. I've never, ever, ever said that's good value. I gave you my thoughts on it. That's all. I don't know what else to say, right? The problem is this is not, people are not going to like what I'm about to say. They did a poor job building the roster around their cornerstone, which was Embiid. Now, he didn't help, but some of the decisions, the push for certain players, you can't ignore. The relationships that were fractured, you can't ignore. It's going to be the what if story, right? Mike chimes in. Q, I think you're the only one who said this, but if you think Young and Davis can work out, you got to think the Wizards are going to be pretty decent, right? Yeah. I mean, come on, man. You guys got to know when I laugh when I say something, it kind of means when I'm chuckling. I'm definitely being very sarcastic, if that's the case. What do we got here? Jet 6 chimes in. On the Jets, okay. Q, you mentioned early on in the show that you thought Aaron Glenn wasn't adult enough. Then you kind of state your case and say that they brought in Frank Wright to kind of control the room. Well, which one is it? I think it's both. I think they hired Frank Wright because, as I mentioned, when you go to Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and when you're a young kid, you're not ready to sit with the adults, right? So you're not ready to sit with the adults. So what do? They send you and they say, sit with the kids. I think that's the scenario here with Aaron Glenn. I think if you're the New York Jets and you're Aaron Glenn, you understand you're 3-14. You understand Woody Johnson is giving you so much rope. You understand that you just basically fired 50, 60% of the coaching staff that you wanted to bring in. Now you need a guy that has to be smarter than you. And that is Frank Wright. And think about it. Frank Wright now, he's that 16, 17, 18-year-old where if you want to sit with the adults, you're not going to have a beverage, but you can sit with us after dinner. You want to go sit with your little cousins? That's fine. Control them. That's Frank Wright. Aaron Glenn is not fit to be an NFL head coach. I don't know how much more I can make this clear. So when they go 3-14, when they start off 1-5, 1-6 with a friggin' bridge quarterback, his ass is getting fired, and Woody Johnson's going to slip and insert Frank Wright into the head coaching spot. And oh, by the way, the only other positive you take away from this, if you're a Jets fan, is that you're bringing in a guy that you know was a head coach before, was a former quarterback, and maybe he can work with that bridge quarterback, and Aaron Glenn can focus on the defense, which was a joke late in the season. Michael chimes in. Broncos country. Let's ride. I know we were so close. Where does the big G? I don't know. We've been talking about it now for 2 hours. I have no idea. I think it might be like this crazy, did we even think about this? So here's a thought. The Timberwolves just shedded Conley's contract. Now, I got to pull it up. I got to pull it up. But, can they be a wild card? And what if Giannis turns around and decides at the witching hour, you know what? I want to retire with the Bucks. Forget about all this other smoke and mirrors. You know what? I want to retire. I want a championship here. I'm entrenched in the community. I'm a Hall of Famer. Here we go. I get it. I was led astray. I let my emotions get the better of me. Yeah, I'm frustrated, banged up. I wanted a competitive product on the floor. Let's retool. Now, look, he's getting older. He's dealing with that calf strain. That's a tricky injury. The last thing you want is to pull Durant and all of a sudden you tear your Achilles. But there's a possibility, right? There's a possibility that he might sit there and say, let's walk it back a little bit. The Knicks would have to give up an overhaul. The Knicks would have to give up a lot. they would have to give up a lot. I mean, if you're saying a fantasy trade right now, I mean, obviously you're going to have to. You're throwing in Cat. I mean, let's just be honest. Yeah, I mean, there's no other. You got limited draft assets, right? So you got to move on too. Towns. You want to get rid of Bridges. You want to get rid of OG. And you're going to, again, draft assets. If I'm the Knicks, this is where you have to watch yourself. This is where you have to watch yourself, because I always equate it to the bar scenario, right? We've all been there. You're at the bar, you're talking to the good-looking girl, and you're thinking, I'm going to get her number, we're going to go out, we're going to date, this is perfect. And then all of a sudden, the brunette walks in, and your eye starts to stray. Now me, sucker for the raven hair, the dark hairs. I'm a sucker for the brunette. So the brunette walks in, and all of a sudden, your eyes are kind of going all over the friggin' place. You're kind of looking for a better deal. And you might be too rash. You might jump to conclusions, but you get up, and as soon as you leave your seat, the opportunity with the first one is done. You're not going back to that. You're not. You're trying to hedge, but it's not happening. You go to brunette and you find out, oh, guess what? I didn't see the ring. Oh, I didn't know you were waiting someone. Oh, that's your boyfriend coming out of the men's room. Now you're screwed. Now you're shit out of luck. That's the Knicks. Like, you have to be very careful right now. Giannis is kind of like that brunette walking through the door, but you might be kind of safe and comfortable with the conversation you have. Why? Because you have chemistry, Michael. And there's an opportunity. The Knicks have won 7 straight. They won 7 straight. They're 32-18. They are absolutely, they're killing teams. They're killing teams. They've outscored their opponents by 173 points. That's their best differential over 7 games in franchise history. So now it's like, hold on a second. Stay where you're at the bar. Do not disrupt this chemistry. Now, I mentioned this. I'm not the biggest Mike Brown fan, but I also don't want to, pardon me, part ways with Bridges and or OG. You already know what I feel about Cat. So I don't want to do it. I don't. I know it's very alluring. It's sexy. It's, oh man, do I have a shot? I'm not doing it. I'm just not. Now, if they do it, am I going to sit here and come on the air and bitch, whine, and complain? No. I'm not. But I'm not doing it. All right. 5 o'clock. Pardon me. 5 o'clock straight up. Excellent stuff. Thank you so much for you guys. You guys hung out with me for well over 2+ hours. Thank you. Busy Thursday, and then Friday, we will start to get in, obviously, to the Super Bowl. We'll start to get in to the big game mañana on a Thursday edition of On Cue. I want to appreciate all the new commenters and listeners chiming in. Don't forget, get social with us. Very easy to do at Rich Q on Q, X, and on IG, TikTok, Rich Q on a mic. You can also download the Odyssey app. Check us out on SR 1029 FM, The Game, Rumble, Kicks, and of course, don't forget on the YouTube channel, like, comment, and subscribe. We're powered by our good friends over at 3 Brooks Bourbon, Pliable. Get ready with tea, fresh roasted coffee, and of course, Play It Again Sports. All right, we got a lot more NBA to talk about tomorrow. We will start to get into the Super Bowl tomorrow and Friday. We're also dropping a new edition of Back Your Play with Lloyd. We'll do about a half an hour on the game. You can check that out on TV 48 Saturday and Sunday. But as always, have a wonderful Sports Wednesday. You know what's going to happen as soon as we bump off the air. Big trade's coming down. But nonetheless, if something crazy happens, we'll figure out a way to pop back on later on. But until then, we'll talk to you mañana. Again, check out the YouTube channel. We'll fire off and get the notifications, and then you guys can get connected with us. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.